Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I'm 25, female. Stepbrother Kyle, 27, male, first met after our parents had been dating for a few months and had just gotten engaged. At the time, I was 14 and Kyle was 16. We originally met at a restaurant in town for dinner where they broke the news of their engagement to us. I figured it was not a big deal since my dad seemed happy and I hadn't really seen him like that at all since my mom died. It seemed that Kyle was a little more frustrated by it than I was. But I think that was just because the plan for once they got married a few months late was to move into the house with my dad and me. When they moved in officially, I found out that apparently at their old house, Kyle was given the master suite and he was upset about having to share a bathroom. Despite his anger, right from the beginning, Kyle was always following me around like a lost puppy. I didn't mind it at first because he seemed nice enough and we bonded a little over our mutual love of a certain book series. I think I just assumed that it was his way of coping with the new living situation. After the first few weeks, though, things got weird very quickly. It started when we were watching the movie version of the book series that we like. I kept noticing him staring at me. I didn't know what his reasoning was, so I just assumed he was feeling nervous about being in the new house with new people, or that he was just shocked that a girl could be a fan of the series too. At one point, I even went to check in the mirror to make sure I didn't have food on my face or something. After that night, I would catch him staring at me frequently, but I tried my best to brush it off. Eventually, things escalated when I caught him reading my diary. It looked like he already read so much of it by the time I caught him. I was so mad. I yelled for him to get out of my room, and he started laughing at me. He told me that it was my fault for leaving it under my pillow and so easy to find. The days after that, he started teasing me about the things I wrote and telling me that I was lucky he was nice and wasn't going to tell everyone at school about what I wrote. Then one day, after a solid 3 days of teasing, he told me that he would tell our classmates what I wrote and specifically tell my crush that I like him if I didn't kiss him. I was so upset and grossed out and immediately ran to my dad to tell him what Kyle said. My dad seemed unfazed and didn't believe me at all. He said that I was making up stories because I didn't want him to be happy with his new wife and that I needed to get over myself. I ran to my room and just cried. I felt so hopeless. My dad never used to be like that and always said he would be there for me before meeting his now wife. Kyle used my dad's lack of interest to his advantage and brought it up again and again. He constantly pressured me and even started stealing my things just so that I would have to go and talk to him. I eventually just told him I didn't care and that he could go tell my secrets because I would never, ever kiss him. He was absolutely furious, and the next day at school, it was clear that he had actually done it. Everyone knew my secrets. I was miserable that day because everyone was looking at me, and I was so embarrassed, wondering which of my secrets they knew. My day got a lot better right before going home, though, because my crush asked me if it was true that I liked him. And when I said yes, he told me he liked me too and asked me to hang out. So, flash forward to last weekend, and me and my crush, who soon became my boyfriend and later fiance, had our wedding. Just as we were finishing getting ready and preparing to walk down the aisle, I get a call from my fiance. He tells me that my stepbrother told him an elaborate story of how I cheated on him when I was traveling in France last year for my best friend's bachelorette party. Little did Kyle know that my fiance came along on this trip and I spent the nights with him in a private room since the house we rented for the bachelorette didn't have room for everyone. My fiance and I ended up even staying a few days afterwards to make a trip of it. Kyle had no idea that my fiance came with me on the trip, so he tried telling him that I spent each night with a man I met at a cafe in Paris. Once I heard that he did this, we came up with a plan to get revenge on my stepbrother once and for all. My fiance played along with the delusion and said he would expose me at the altar to get my stepbrother to feel like he was finally going to win. However, when at the altar, I decided to get the attention of everyone attending and said that I had an announcement to make before we proceeded. I spoke about how there are no secrets in a marriage and between family, and that I had to expose a secret before we could finish the ceremony. I looked over at Kyle, who had a smug look on his face. I then went into detail about cheating and how wrong it is and how much it can hurt people. I then started telling the story, but instead of talking about my trip to France, I started telling the story of my fiancé's bachelor party, where one of the attendees cheated on his wife with someone he met at the event. At that moment, I saw my stepbrother's face go white because he knew this story well. I continued on and said that I felt that I couldn't get married without exposing the truth. I went into detail about the event and how one of the attendees hit on a woman working at the event and not only brought her back to his hotel room, but also bragged about it to everyone the next day. I proclaimed that I couldn't hold it in any longer, that my stepbrother cheated on his wife. Everyone fell completely silent and looked over at Kyle and at his wife. The look on Kyle's face was absolutely priceless. It was the perfect combination of guilt, anger, frustration, and a little bit of fear. I felt a bit bad dragging his wife into the drama, but in the end, she not only deserved to know that he cheated, but also that she was married to a cruel and manipulative man. He never changed at all from the person he was when he read my diary and exposed me to the whole school. His wife immediately got upset and, with tears in her eyes, stormed out of the ceremony. My stepbrother followed after, giving my fiancé and I the most furious glare I had ever seen. The rest of the ceremony went completely smoothly, and my now husband and I are in Hawaii on our honeymoon. I have to know, am I the AH for exposing the secret in that way? Should I have responded differently to Kyle's lies? I will update again when I get home and find out more about the fallout. So I just returned home from my honeymoon, and boy, we really exposed a lot of drama. So it turns out that the bachelor party was not my stepbrother's first time cheating. His wife had forgiven his first indiscretion on the condition that it never happened again. So this time she decided to leave and file for divorce. She ended up calling me last night to thank me. She told me that she has a feeling the party wasn't only his second time cheating either. She was very glad to find out what happened, even though the way she found out was a bit difficult. She couldn't believe that she had put up with his lies and manipulation for so long. I told her that it wasn't her fault and talked to her a little bit about how my dad and stepmom never held him accountable for anything and let him get away with being this way for years. I offered for my husband and me to help her move her things to her parents' place, and she was very grateful for the assistance. My stepbrother, on the other hand, is a complete mess. His soon-to-be ex-wife told me that he broke down in front of her and begged for forgiveness on his knees while crying his eyes out. She said it felt nice to watch him suffer after everything he has done to her. And I'll be honest, it felt nice to hear about it too. He is now moving in with my uncle because my dad and stepmom want nothing to do with him after what he did. It's been a few months since then, and I have been getting asked for another update, so here it is. Kyle's now ex-wife is dating again and met a really great guy who treats her so well. I am so happy for her and so glad she got away from Kyle. My stepbrother, on the other hand, has had his life completely destroyed. Not only is his wife gone and moved on with another man, but the crazy rampage he went on after everything went down caused him to lose his job. I was told by his ex-wife that he was let go for erratic behavior, missing too much work and harassing one of his female co-workers. At one point, they even had to call the police to escort him out of the building. Even worse for him is that the field he works in is tightly connected, so he might never get another job in the field ever again due to his behavior. While a part of me feels a little bit bad for him for what I did and all the chaos it caused for him, I am honestly feeling really happy at the thought of him living every day wishing he never read my diary in the first place. My husband, male 30, and I, female 28, have a son, male 19 months. He goes to daycare 3 days a week and usually gets picked up by my grandma, 78, female. She is his main caregiver when we are both working. She purchased a car seat with my help so that she could pick him up and to have for emergencies. My mother-in-law, female 63, does not watch my son often. She has stated many times she does not want to have baby things in her car or house. She is our last resort when it comes to babysitting. Yesterday, I needed mother-in-law to watch my son after daycare because my grandma had doctor appointments. I asked mother-in-law 2 weeks in advance so that I didn't interfere with her schedule. Grandma offered up her car seat because mother-in-law does not have one. Mother-in-law was supposed to leave car seat at my house so I could give it back to Grandma. She refuses to learn how to put the car seat in her car. She makes my husband or me take it in and out. So she did not return the car seat to Grandma. This morning I had to leave my car seat at daycare so Grandma could pick up my son. I asked my husband to please talk to mother-in-law about getting a car seat because we are playing musical cars and it's not fair that she kept Grandma's car seat that Grandma paid for. Husband wants me to send the type of car seat to him so he can buy it for mother-in-law. I refused, saying she can spend her own money and do her own research on the car seat. Obviously, I would make sure it was a safe model before I let her take my son. He says I'm being unreasonable and all I have to do is send the model and he'll take care of it. Am I the a-hole because I won't help her get a car seat? This is a petty edit, but to go along with her not wanting to do baby things, she refuses to give my son Tylenol when he has an ear infection because he will ruin his kidneys, and won't follow the guidelines I give her as far as food. Yes, I should not have her babysit, but when it comes down to me calling off of work or her picking him up from daycare, I would hope she could be a decent person and do me a favor. I may be entitled by asking her to buy a car seat, but I didn't want to bog down this post with personal feelings. I get it, IATAH, because I won't buy the seat. However, thanks for your comments. We will be reevaluating how much we use mother-in-law as a pickup, drop-off person, even if it is only 5 times a year. In the end, this was the straw that broke the camel's back in my dealings with mother-in-law. While it's a weird hill to die on, it was my breaking point, but not the best one. Thanks to everyone that thinks I forced my 78-year-old grandma to babysit when it's the happiest she's been in years. I truly hope you guys don't have grandchildren and expect your kids to pay you to spend time with them. My childhood memories with my grandma are some of the best ones that I have. YTA, this is somewhat entitled of you. Mother-in-law was doing you a favor. Family members are not. Nobody is obliged to care for, pay for your child. Only you and your husband made the decision to have a child. Nobody else got a say in it or the costs, responsibilities that come with it. Sure, family members will often do you favors to help you out, even though it's not a requirement. But requiring them to pay for expensive items so they can do you a favor is spoilt behavior. It should be you and your husband providing the necessary equipment to care for your child. She had already given you her time to help you out. Yet, you arrogantly demand mother-in-law should be spending yet more time researching car seats and then forking out significant money to buy one. And this is all because you found it slightly inconvenient having to take your own car seat to daycare, where you were going anyway. She probably just forgot to return the car seat, as none of this is part of her routine, since you rarely let her babysit. So why not address that reasonably, like just sending a text reminder next time around the time you know she needs to remember to return the car seat? You instead decide you're unnecessarily entitled to more of her time and money to make a point. And yes, I do think you're trying to make a point to her with that demand. All because she caused you minor inconvenience, whilst you were causing her 3 hours of inconvenience. You also lazily dismiss mother-in-law as only spending 3 hours looking after your child, as if that's not a big chunk of her day. You really do think people owe you for the privilege of helping you out, don't you? I also think your negativity towards mother-in-law really shows through. In comments like, she refuses to learn how to put the car seat in the car. And boo-hoo, that causes you yet another minor inconvenience of doing it yourself. You make it sound as if she's doing that maliciously to be difficult, when in reality she's probably just scared of getting it wrong and your son then being at risk. You're acting entitled, overly negative and spoiled. Your grandmother won't be around in good health forever, so be careful which bridges you burn. If someone demanded I fork out significant amounts of money for their convenience whilst doing them the favor, I wouldn't be keen to help them again. If you were using somebody as free childcare and expect them to drive your child around, buying them a car seat to do so seems entirely reasonable. You're making that expense back in a couple of days of not having to pay for childcare anyways. YTA. My son attends half-day kindergarten. I just picked him up and had to deal with some moms. I'm writing this in the car just to calm myself down from dealing with these people. I know this is ridiculous and I never thought I would be writing here, but here goes. My son has 17 kids in his class, so I decided to do something nice. Through my company, I get discounted movie tickets to give away to clients. So I put 17 envelopes in my son's backpack for his teacher to put in each other kid's Halloween treat bag today. There is no problem with this. It's a private school, and all the parents agreed to send treats for every kid in the class. No problem with religion or economic hardship. The problem came when I got there to pick him up. 3 moms were waiting for me. They wanted to know where their ticket was and if I had extra for their other kids. What? I just thought this was better than more candy. But they are upset with me because now they will have to spend money to use their Halloween treat. I think all the kids go to see movies. The voucher is good for one kid's movie admission, a small soda, a small popcorn, and a small candy. But it seems that I'm the a-hole for only providing for the one kid in my son's class. I think that they are being greedy and cheap. I guess part of the reason they were complaining is that I usually rent out a theater for clients' events and let my kids invite their friends. These 3 particular women have brought their entire families to my client nights. That's not a problem. I do it as a thank you to my current clients and as a networking and recruitment tool for new clients. And before anyone says anything, I am a realtor, not into MLM. Also, one of them wanted a ticket so her au pair could take the kid. So, not sure how time or finance come into play here. NTA, this is kindergarten, and these kids just received a ton of candy, which is to say they're easily distracted right now. If the parents truly don't want to take their kid to a movie, put the ticket away and it will be long forgotten. Or gasp, pony up for your own ticket and make a family movie day out of it. A free movie ticket is not the insult they are portraying it to be. NTA, they're just pissed they have to do something with their kids. If you wanted to, you could tell them you'll take them with yours, but I wouldn't even do that. This is also hilarious because people think it's okay to not invite every kid in the class to birthday parties, but if you give candy to some and tickets to others, that would have made them mad too. Matter of fact, tell them to give you the tickets back and you give them a candy bar if they don't like it. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. ESH. I think your gift would have been awesome if the children were old enough to attend movies on their own. But these kids aren't. And now the parents have to either pay money to use your gift or give it away. The voucher really isn't in the spirit of the event, not for kids that young. Again, I think it would be awesome for older kids. The parents suck for demanding more tickets from you. Whether serious or to make a point, it's the wrong way to go about it. They didn't really need to confront you like that. BTW. Sometimes kids get into private schools based on scholarships, generous relatives, or their parents scraping up all disposable income. At the very least, using your gift required their money and time to utilize. Even if the parents are being cheap, which is unkind to assume, it's the kid that loses out on the gift.